Hi, it's Lux. Thank you so much for putting me on your show. I think that's amazing. Really respect the time and effort you put in answering my question. I do have comments on it, but I thought I'd just post them here on your YouTube channel, and maybe you or others might feel like having a go at them. Um, yeah, I was a bit tired when I did the video last time, and today Southern California is suffering a cold spell. I'm sure you're going to see about it on the news. All the schools are closed, and the grocery stores don't have any bread or milk. It's dropped down to a blistering 68 degrees, and we're not sure what to do. So I guess I'll start with my comments for Chad. I think in nowhere was that a straw man argument. It wasn't deceptive, and it definitely was what I consider a legitimate question on a contradiction that I felt is real. Definitely wasn't meant to deceive the believers that take things at face value. It was simply a question. But I guess my question for you would be, if I did indeed cherry pick this verse, where in the following verses it's the answer to my question. I know cherry picking is something everyone does, atheists, Christians alike. That's a common practice, but sometimes a verse is clear, and that is, I hate divorce, saith the Lord. There's no question there. Now, obviously, you'd want to read a little bit further to see him say except, but once the subject matter's changed, I think it's pretty clear he hates divorce, and I do too. So, so I guess I'll continue with my comments and I did write them down. So excuse me if I look away. God commands us not to murder or kill, and then commands one of his followers to do so. That was just a simple question. I get your answer about murder versus killing, premeditation versus being commanded to do so for what's considered a just reason. But God kills 2 people in the book of Acts for lying, yet the average person lies many times a day to some degree or another. If he never changes, then why are we all still alive? I understand that you're saying that God does not play by the same rules he establishes for us. If that were the case, Christians would gather and destroy strip clubs, pornography establishments, and countries that worship false gods. If we are morally judging God, it's because he is not parallel with us and his teachings. We are confused by his actions, at least some of us. Do want to address the animal part of what you said. Animals do get upset in basic terms. They have their own morality, if you will. It is demonstrated by territorial disputes, grieving the loss of their offspring. I've witnessed this firsthand. Mother cows do this when they lose a calf. My grandparents lived in Mississippi, and I would hear a mother cow after she lost her calf cry an agonizing cry for days. It's quite obvious she didn't do this any other time other than when the child was lost. So there's obviously some feeling there. They also have fights over food and other elements. I know it's basic, and some people would consider it an instinct, but proof of that is all around us. You might say that we have an instinct too. It's a far more developed instinct, and one that is also altered by culture. A good example of that is a handful of decades ago, the word dang was considered horrific. You'd never say that in public or say that to someone. That was very disrespectful and was something that people would actually pray and ask forgiveness for. As a matter of fact, there were numerous morality changes between the past and now, not the not so distant past, things that we consider, and even do in our churches, that we consider perfectly fine. Others in the past would have fell to their knees and asked for forgiveness. So I think morality changes throughout time, so it's hard to pin that down. I know you're going to say that there's key things that we lock onto, but it either is the same today and tomorrow, or it's not. So our culture should not be dictating morality. I guess I would also say that I'm not calling the kettle black, I'm calling it an entirely different color. Also, you brought up translations, and I'll admit, for a good portion of my life, I was a spirit-filled evangelical Christian. What you're doing on the streets, ministering and preaching, is something I have done. So I come from that background. One of the things that eventually began my process into becoming an atheist was the translation issue you brought up today in your show. I went to Bible college after high school, obviously, and I began to see differences within the translations. As a matter of fact, I used to get really bothered by pastors that would say, give a certain verse, then go, well, but in the Greek, it actually means, and then I would ask myself, then why doesn't it say that here? You know, the differences in agape and phileo, love, that I obviously understand that sometimes translating from one language to other, you can't pull it from that language and get an accurate depiction of what's being said. That also holds a problem if God's trying to communicate to the world and we take in these translations. And I know many that have been translated into other languages have some serious errors in them. So you take, in this case, kill, and in the Greek actually meaning to premeditated murder, one might ask, why doesn't it say that to begin with? I owned a literal translation Bible back in the day. It was in my process of Bibles. I went from King James to New American Standard to NIV to something called Dake, I think, Drake or Dake, and then eventually to a literal translation. I did that because I began to see, again, pastors talking about the differences in the translations. Even Rick Warren in The Purpose-Driven Life used 15 different translations to prove his point in that book. People all over this country love the Message Bible, which so I guess my concern with translations is they vary. Some specifically say between translation and translation, certain text is completely omitted. I know in the King James Bible versus the New American Standard and some others, there are parts in that Bible where, or at least in the New American Standard, where verses are completely, or parts of verses are omitted. That should concern us. It concerned me, and it, amongst other things, was, for lack of a better term, and apologize for this, but a nail in the coffin. I know that's a pun for you guys. That led me eventually to no longer believe. So again, thank you so much for putting me on your show and allowing me to chatter for and ramble. And hopefully we can continue this in a pleasant way, as I know you will and I will. So have a great day, and thanks a bunch.